My personal belief is that great products are always focusing on what the customer want to do and what's the best way to do it and how it should end up looking. Take a look at example PowerPoint, right? You want to create a presentation, but you want to make a beautiful presentation. If we give people the ability to generate their vision and to make it as beautiful as they want, then we have a winner. The hardest part in building a website is that it takes a lot of effort to do the first version. Everyone has a different story and different way to talk about it, different way to present it. And this is what you want to carry into your website. That personal feeling with the story around it.
Before we dive in, I want to extend a warm invitation to join our thriving Foundr community. It's the perfect place to discover more insightful interviews aimed at helping you build, grow, and scale your business. So don't forget to hit subscribe. Your support means the absolute world to us. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get stuck in today's discussion.
Hear the stories, learn the proven methods, and accelerate your growth and future through entrepreneurship. Welcome to the Foundr Podcast with Nathan Chan.
So Avishai, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. The first question that I want to ask you is what did the first 60 days of business look like for Wixs? How did you start the company? What did the first 60 days look like?
Well, we actually started by having a different idea, right? So we had a concept about sharing, way to do a smarter way to do file sharing, and we raised money for that. And then my partner at that time was supposed to, who had two ideas. There was one of them that was only agreed on, and the other one was, we thought about there is an issue of editing web content. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to test your idea. I'm going to try and build a website for the file sharing thing. And it really sucked. I felt that, I'm a developer by profession, and I've been doing it for so many years on different platforms. But I tried to actually edit HTML and CSS myself. At that time with Dreamweaver, and I was such a bad experience. Went back to the investors. I told them, well, we're not going to do that thing anymore. We're going to do something else. And it was kind of an interesting thing because all the investors said, yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a really good idea. We'll back you on this new thing. So this is how we started. So the first 8 months was probably just changing everything.
Yeah. And you wrote an article on entrepreneur.com in 2014 where you said that the early days of Wixs was like treading a minefield of potential catastrophes. What were they and how did you avoid them? Could you talk us through some of that?
Well, I don't remember what I was thinking about in 2015. But I can tell you one of the hardest challenges we had is that we had this thing where you could easily, at that time it was Flash, you could easily build Flash content, right? And it was a drag and drop interface that you could build these very beautiful Flash widgets or pages and I think the hardest challenge in the beginning was to choose what to do. And we had a lot of concepts. And fun as it is, I would say about 40% of them were related to MySpace. And so luckily we didn't choose that, right? If we would not be existing today. There was another portion which was building for designers, and we actually thought about something similar to Canva. And we didn't do that as well. I think at that time it was actually much harder if we would go down that path. And we ended up doing websites. So this is really how the company started. A lot of it came from the fact that we felt that we understand the business model and that we are not depending so much on other companies like MySpace. And so that was one of the hardest challenges, I think, to pick up. We had 11 different options of how we're going to use the same technology to create a product. So we had this base product, right? But how we package it, how we make it into a company was something that we had 11 different options of what to do with. And I think for many companies, this is one of the hardest challenges, right? You have, it's the concept of how do you, so you have this technology, but now how do you package it and how do you market it, how do you take it out is very tricky to do in the beginning. You kind of have to understand what's going to be the easiest path where you still maintain control of your life and independence on the one hand, and then on the other hand, that you can actually generate a business model from. So, I mean, we got lucky that we chose the right one.
Yeah. And how'd you get your first customer? Who was Wixs' first customer? How'd you get your first customer?
So that was actually interesting. The second that we actually launched all the 11 in the beginning. So we launched all the 11 and the concepts. And so we built a page and we wrote about it in different places, approached a few blogs in every relevant area. And the website thing and the MySpace thing just took off.
Yep.
So we kind of was obvious to choose probably one of those two. We had also another one which was greeting cards. So we had this really cool way of creating greeting cards with it, and the design aspect. So you can actually just create really beautiful design, not necessarily websites, but more for print or for other things. I'm an investor, but in particular, I love that last one. Anyway, so we just, probably the first day we started closed beta for Wixs, we started to have people that registered, and it kept growing every day.
Yeah, got you. And you guys started the company in 2006. There's been a lot of tools that are like competitors to Wix. There's been a lot of website builders come and go. What do you think has been the number one thing that has ensured the company's growth, survival, and it's almost 20 years. This is an incredible company. You guys are listed, like massive market cap. Like, what do you think it's been that is, if you could boil it down to a couple of things, that has ensured the sustainability of Wix?
I think it's a different focus on what is the customer. And there were so many tools when we started, right? There was Dreamweaver, which is very hard to use tool for editing HTML. There was Yahoo Website Builder or Free Webs, which kind of like, well, the concept behind it was that your grandmother can build a website. And there were Apple had iWeb, which was another tool. Microsoft had Front Page. There was a lot of them. Google had Google Sites. At that time, it still did websites, not just backend. But I think we picked a different approach because we said that we want our customers to be people that know how to use a computer. We didn't believe that making a website for grandmothers is a sustainable business plan. Essentially, we said, well, we think our customers are the smart guys, so we're going to build product for smart people. And even today, Wix is something that you have to learn how to use. It's not, if you don't know how to use a computer, you don't have a chance. If you don't know how to use the level of knowledge that you would have to use Excel, PowerPoint, then Wix is probably too hard for you. But if you are one of those people that feel comfortable for a computer, Wix is an easy experience. But you don't, Front Page always ended up making ugly websites. We didn't think anybody wanted that. So the first thing we said, we want to aim at intelligent users that are computer savvy, that are not necessarily technical. They don't need to understand HTML. They don't need to understand CSS. Don't need to understand Flash. They don't have to know any of that. You have to know, if you know how to use computers, we need to give you a way to create stunning websites. And the emphasis on stunning website was one of the places we've been unique, I think, because we realized that people really care about the design of what they do. Right? It might look ugly for me and you, right, for us, but if we give people the ability to generate their vision and to make it as beautiful as they want, then we have a winner. And that was pretty much the key, I think, from day one. I still remember, every time we're sitting in product, in roadmap meeting on the product, and people come to me, well, we don't have an undo. Do you think we need to do an undo? And I would always go back to like all those really smart features, and I would say, no. We need to have better galleries. We need to have the better font. We need to have more effects, and then making for them crazy. But that became very successful for us as a strategy because you can really create things that you're proud of.
Yeah, I see. So for founders that are listening to this right now and they're in the early stages, how can they stand out in a crowded market for their business? What advice would you give?
Well, I think the number one is that don't ask too much about who is the customer. Care more about what they are trying to do. And I'll try to explain. And this is the first thing, every product lecture I usually listen to. They always say, well, you should think about who is the customer. Who is the customer of an iPhone? Who is the customer of Chrome? Who is the customer of Facebook? Who is the customer of Instagram? Who is the customer of... Well, the answer is everybody. So if all the good products are built on the concept that it's for a huge amount of people, then why would you focus on that? Then the other side of it is that, well, it's very easy to say what those people want to do. When you have an iPhone in your hand, we kind of know what you want to do. You either want to use an application or maybe talk, right? It's not that common anymore on the phone. And then if you will use Chrome, we know what you want to do. If you're using Excel, we know what you want to do. So it's very easy to define what the customer want to do. And that usually leads to great products, as opposed to who is the customer and then try to build something around that. So that's number one. And then ask yourself, what is the most important thing for the customer when you want to do it? Right? So, for example, in Wixs, it would be create a stunning website. And so that makes your product stand above everybody else because you deliver a product that caters to what your customers want to do and not to what you think they should be.
Yeah, so I love that because the thing that comes to my mind is they say that if you try and create it for everyone, you create it for no one. And the riches are in the niches. What's your statement to that? What's your thoughts around that?
None of the great products on the planet was ever built with that mentality. I do believe that a lot of the great products were created by finding what is it that you want the product to do very well. But somebody want to use that, right? What is it that they want to achieve? Take a look at example PowerPoint, right? Or slides. Well, you want to create a presentation, but you want to make a beautiful presentation probably. So I would say all of them are lacking in that. This is just one example. Right? And there are many of such examples. It's, again, my personal belief is that great products are always focusing on what the customer want to do and how it should be, what's the best way to do it, and how it should end up looking, as opposed to who is the customer.
Yeah, I love that. So when it comes to work and passion, I read that you used to work 18 hours a day. Now you've dropped it to 12. Is that correct?
Well, I don't measure time, right? So I sleep about 5-6 hours. I have about 6 hours, 4 or 5 with my family, and the rest of it is work. So probably that is about the right amount of hours. I actually don't think that I don't feel that it's a lot. As how many hours do you spend with your friends every day? Or what do you do for the rest of the time? And so I don't know how many hours you sleep, but assuming you sleep 6 hours or 7 hours, then you end up living a lot of free time if you work for 9 or 8 hours a day. In fact, if you sleep for 8 hours, right? Sorry, sleep for 8 hours, work for 8 hours, and you have 8 hours free. Right? So, I don't know how much free time do you need, but for me, 5 hours a day is more than enough. Usually a lot less than that. So if I sleep for 5 hours, then I have 19 hours, 4 hours free, still leave me a huge amount of time to spend focusing on what's more important for me.
So do you think that if anyone's listening to this that's in the early stages of their business, they have to be prepared to work 80 hours a week if they want to build something of true worth and significance?
I've never seen anybody who's managed to do it without it. I don't know, maybe you have. You're talking to a lot more founders than me. But every founder I've seen is always obsessed. And I think that obsession is tremendous power.
I agree. They're not only obsessed, but they're hungry, desperate. That hunger you cannot like put a price on, because that's where it's at. Like if you are hungry enough, you will find a way. Where does your hunger come from? What fuels it?
I don't know. I always, since I remember myself, I knew what I wanted to do. So if you would go to me probably at the age of 9, I already knew what I wanted to do. When I grow up, I knew that I want to build technology companies. At that time, there was no name for, of course, software companies. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do from the age of, 8.
How?
I'm sure for my family has a lot to do with it. I come from my dad is love science, love technology. You have a few degrees in that he did it later on in life. But that was the conversation around the dinner table. So the conversation on the dinner table would usually be around invention and technology and science and like coming with ideas on how to solve things. And so I just guess I grew into that.
And I guess, tell us about your first company, because Wixs wasn't your first company. You started another company, your first business in 1993, AIT Inc. It was a web management company.
Yeah. It was actually, we did software projects for other companies and ended up doing, we did, you guys from Australia, right? I think. And so if you, I don't know how old you are, but there was a CD-ROM that had all the yellow pages and white pages on it in Australia. So that was, I'm almost sure that was our first project. We did it for a company in Israel, that did it for a company in Australia. We actually implemented that. So that was our first big project. We did a bunch of those. We ended up specializing in creating, as opposed to building software for somebody, building products for other companies. So that was a very good school for me. And we ended up with a product that we call Magic Kit, which was a set of components for developers to build advanced user interface and very pretty user interface. So that was our own product, which was sold pretty much around the globe. And the company was sold in 1997.
Yep.
In a terrible deal. I was so naive there. I just think about how little I knew about business at those days. And so when I joined the purchasing and the company that bought us, left that, but then started a different company called Sphera, which did a management layer for hosting companies. We did the first a virtual server technology.
Yep.
So it was even before VMware existed, I believe. And we started to sell that, got hit very strongly, of course, with the .com collapse.
Yep.
And which made me realize that I need to unlearn about economy, because, one day everything was great, and then the next day everything was bad, and nothing changed in my business. And I had it was like this external thing that happened, and everything changed in what I do. So I spent quite a while after that trying to learn as much as I can about economy, because it was obvious that it has a big significance for my life. And the next company that I founded was Wixs.
Yeah. So you've been building technology companies for over 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
More than that, because even as a kid, I had this crew that we were doing things together, right? Not practical things, but we were doing things.
Yeah, yeah. And all of those companies you've always built with your brother?
No, this is the first company I did with my brother.
Okay. You said something interesting that I'd love to unpack. I'd be foolish not to. You said you spent a lot of time studying the economy, and you said you realized around if the market shifts or where the economy's at, it can affect your life, your business, et cetera, et cetera. The economy right now is, it's 2024, and the economy right now is a bit up and down. It's probably since COVID, it's been pretty up and down, rocky, up, down, here, there, everywhere. People say that during this time period has a similar resemblance of the previous tech boom and bust. especially with the introduction of AI, cryptocurrency technologies, blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, blockchain technologies. What's your take?
Well, I think obviously there was a big bubble that burst, right? I think that we saw the market crashing, and I think that in many places it's still too low to where it should be. But we have an issue, right? That the interest rates are high, which makes it hard to found companies, right? Because money is another place to go to. So as a company, you get less resources, debt is more expensive, less small businesses or medium-sized businesses are being created, which is usually a big part of the customers that you would have early on in any kind of a software business. So we're still, I would say we're still at the down of the cycle. Maybe starting to climb up, but we are not there yet. I think the government's not necessarily doing a good job of managing it.
Yeah. So, you guys are on the forefront of AI technology. Last year, you launched an AI website builder, and you can basically build your own website in Wix through prompts. Where do you see that technology going?
I love that. I think that, so we released our first AI-based website builder in 2016. And you just go in, type a few things on your business, and we would search the web for more information and just generate the website for you based on, well, today it looks like very naive algorithms, but at that time it was like really cutting edge algorithms. And I think that when I look at AI, of course, there are many very intelligent people that try to predict it, but I am a strong believer. I think that there's a long way for us to advance there. My one prediction is that none of us will remember LLMs in 5 years. That's one my small prediction. I think we're going to get to much more interesting algorithms. And as for Wixs, the hardest part in building a website is that it takes a lot of effort to do the first version, and a lot of different kind of efforts, because you have to do textual content, you have to have visual content, you have to do the composition between them, you have to get storytelling right about your website, and it doesn't matter if it's a podcast, right, or if it's a website about selling t-shirts, or if it's a yoga studio. But everyone has a different story and different way to talk about it, different way to present it. And this is what you want to carry into your website, that personal feeling with the story around it. And I believe that AI is a fantastic tool to make it easier for you to start, for you to change things, to edit things later. So I'm a strong believer in that. We're already seeing great results with AI. We're seeing now with the current site generation and funnel that help you. And so I'm a strong believer that by reducing the friction and the amount of effort you need to build a website, we're going to get great results for our customers.
And that in turn will lead to growth.
Yeah, of course. But beyond that, it's the thing about that. You can come and say, well, I want to tell my story, and I'm a yoga, and I'm specializing in a studio in Brooklyn, and I'm specializing in Europa meditation and this kind of a thing. This is my philosophy. And to do that today, right? Well, you might be able to, but my English is definitely, even my Hebrew is not that good, that I can actually write it in a very proper way that will make people look, wow, that's really an interesting story. And with AI, I can do it easily. So I think that this is I can probably even do it in Chinese now, right? Because the AI can translate to any language. So I think it's an incredible amount of power that we can give our customer. And I love that. I love every time we can do something like that. It just gets me excited.
So you went public over a decade ago. What's kept you motivated to lead Wix and continue to lead Wix?
Well, because I think a couple of things. First of all, I said that was I always known what I want to do. So it's like I didn't wake up one day, find myself leading Wixs and like, oh my God, I just want to sell it and do this other thing that I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I'm doing the other thing I wanted to do with the rest of my life already. So that's a very important thing. The other side of it is that I believe there's so much potential. So I actually get excited about a lot of the thing we do. So I go to work and a lot of time I'm waiting for the meeting because I'm excited about what we're going to do today, what we're going to work on today. And so I mean, that's a lot of it. And it was a big part of it, which was I knew that if we are able to go, because Wix is one of the few companies that IPO'd in Israel at that time, from Israel, technology companies. I think that I understood that this is going to be transformative to the local economy, which I'm sure is going to happen more and more in Australia, because I see brilliant companies coming from there, right? And I think this is something that all of us care about, the environment around us. So all of those things, but mostly because I'm doing the thing I love to do.
I'd love to hear your concept around decision making. You said before that you only have to make around 4 decisions every quarter. How is that possible? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is something I see a lot. There are many CEOs that I meet, mostly young CEOs, that they decide everything in the company. And they know what is every customer problem, the support problem, how much the pizza cost, how much the flying cost. They know all those things. I know none of that. I never approved a flight, I think, in my life to anybody. I never ordered the pizza, or I actually never checked the bill for the pizza if I ordered it, or a huge amount of other things, even in the professional side. I believe that good CEOs should hire fantastic people. You need to make it visible for them what you want to achieve, and what are the KPIs they have to look at. And you need to create this environment where you push the decisions down. So you can actually leave, your mind can focus on the things that really matter, right? So we built this beautiful campus. And I saw the plan, but I was not involved. And the reason is mostly because I need to worry about the income, not the expenses, right? So that's already 2/3 of the decision that they don't have to do. And I know I have really smart people to do that. And then there's a lot of things when it comes to the product and marketing that they have really smart people. So I know they'll approach me if they want to hear my thoughts about something. But if I didn't trust them, why did I hire them? And I always like to think about it that if I go into a room at Wix, to every meeting in Wix, and I think that I'm the most intelligent person in that room, I'm a shitty CEO. If I go to a room and I think that, oh my God, most of those guys are way smarter than me, and know so much more about what they do than me, then apparently I'm doing my job well. So I need to empower people to have the tools to make decisions, and to have a framework by which we can measure the decisions, see the results of things. And I think that is a lot of what my job is. I'm not sure I'm taking 4 decisions a quarter, maybe sometimes less.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it's something that I find so interesting, and it's not talked about enough publicly, is businesses are built by people. And you said shitty CEOs, they make too many decisions. They're too involved in the day-to-day. And I love what you said around, if you don't trust that person, why did you hire them in the first place? Then the question goes to, naturally, how do you find great people? Like a lot of founders really, really struggle with this.
I think this is probably the hardest point in founding a company. Getting this team that will stay with you for a very long time with fantastic people. And I believe that you interview a lot of people, you hire, and you hire the one that you believe are superstars. And then you have to be realistic about it and know that it's very hard to know if somebody's a superstar when you hire them, but it's very easy to know it a month later. Let's say I'm hiring somebody, he looks like a superstar. It's very hard to know if it's true or not.
Yeah.
You get better at it, but you're always going to you're not going to always hit it. But a month later, when you work with somebody, you know if he's a superstar or not. It's very easy to know. If not after a month, after 2 months, 3 months. You don't have to wait 10 years for that. And I believe that, be brave and fire people. If it doesn't work, it's fine. But in the beginning of a company, you don't have the luxury of waiting. So hire the people that you are willing to take a bet on because you think they have this star quality or this high level of quality that you want to have in your team. And then if it doesn't work, you just have to say bye quickly. I hired for a marketing position. I would probably interview 200 people and hire 23. Number 23 was the right person.
Number 23.
And some of them, yes. And by the way, some of them stayed working at Wixs, right? It's not like I always had to find it, but really get people, but they could not lead what they wanted in marketing. So I was running very quickly. Same thing for a lot of other things that we did.
23 times to hire your marketing leader.
Yeah. Well, I didn't hire a marketing leader. I hired marketing people, right? And I always try to see what happened if I try to use them as more of a leader, okay? And number 23 was the one that we stayed with until today.
Wow. How long did that take?
About 9 months or a year, something like that.
Wow. This was in the early days, Wix? You guys are funded.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys are funded, so you could move pretty fast. But still, that's an interesting concept.
I don't know anybody who knows how to hire always superstars. I never seen that. There is another thing that you have to know about every top talent that you're going to find is that they're going to be amazing at certain amount of things and then terrible at some other things. And your job as CEO is to recognize where they are very strong, what they're capable of doing. You never have to think about that. And then make sure to find solution for the things they're weak with. And again, this is another thing. I look at young CEOs, they're kind of like, oh, here are the keys, solve this for me. And then they start helping them to manage around it because there are things that this person cannot do well. And then you're getting engaged in that instead of appreciating, saying, well, this guy is amazing at that part of the job, terrible at this part of the job. I'm going to bring somebody to help him, or I'm going to have a way around that. So, and this is always true. Every super talent has things that he's great with, and then a few things that he's terrible with.
You want great leaders, right?
Yes, of course. I think that everybody wants great leaders, no?
Yeah.
And that's the goal. You want to build, you don't build a product, right? You hire people that build a product. You don't do marketing, you hire people that do marketing. You don't build servers, you hire people that build servers. Well, maybe you build servers, but most of the people don't. And so you want to make sure you hire great leaders for that position, or people for that position.
Any questions that you love to ask from your hiring journey of probably hiring thousands of people over the years? Is there one question or two key questions or anything that you have to do always to try and identify incredible talent and superstars?
Well, there's a couple of tricks that I always use. And the number one, and most people, they come with questions. And I tend to ask people about project or something they do. And what I notice is that the superstars always talk about what they did and not about how important they've been when doing that. And that's a huge difference. And so if I would ask you, I'll say, well, tell me about interviews. And then you would, right, and I would start asking you about interviews. And if you would tell me, well, this happened here, I did that, or this is how things are going, and then I did this. I would know, okay, you're a doer. And then because it's that simple to know that you're somebody who's doing things just by that. Another great advice that I heard about hiring managers, and this is to the Hans Green, formalized it so well for me, is asking about the people that you fired and if you ever stayed friends with any of them. So if you want to hire a manager, ask that. Right? And because you cannot be a great manager without having some time to fire somebody. Especially in the early days, because after a while you have a team that you don't have, right? They already know they have quality. But before that, you still have to.
So if they've stayed friends with that person, that means they're a great manager after they've fired them?
Well, if they stay friendly, right? But more than that, you will start hearing about how many times they fired somebody or why and how it worked and those hard decisions. Because there are people that you like in the company, but they're not that good professionally. What do you do with them? And great managers will have a very organized answer for that. A well-thought answer for that. In cases they to deal with in reality and in their reality. So start hearing about those stories. And I think that it's one of the key principles that great managers should have.
Yeah, I love that. Well, look, we have to thank you for sharing about hiring, because I think it's not talked about enough. And it's clear that you've been able to build an incredible company from being a fantastic CEO of finding the right people and keeping them on the bus and identifying them and making sure they're on the bus.
I argue about the amazing CEO. I think that one of the things that keep me so passionate is that I'm still learning all the time how to be better. And there's a lot more I should be probably learn before I can say I'm an excellent CEO.
Like what?
Well, a lot of things. How do you scale properly? How do you create a lot of the more everything that has to do with scale? And I think it's something that I'm still learning a lot about. And how do you ensure that we keep hiring great people and keep refreshing that? How do you give more freedom to those smart people that you have to know better what you want them to do? Like every year we write this. So we started with just a presentation, me talking to a few people. Then we had this presentation about the yearly plan. Now we have documents about that. We just completely changed the format of that document and how it integrates to what everybody's doing. So there's a lot of that I feel that I'm learning every day how to do my job better. And I never manage, at the scale we are, I always know how to operate a company with one or two scales smaller than that in a good way. But to the scale we are at, that's in time. I always think that it would be, I just never had enough time to learn how to do that properly.
Well, look, I love how humble you are, because I think, if you think you've got it all worked out, that's when, probably from my experience as well, I think the times when I've kind of thought I'm on top of the world and I'm untouchable and nothing can stop me and everything I touch turns to gold is the time when, things start to not go the way I want it to, and I'm in for a shock. So I think that's a really good mindset to be humbled and know that you're always learning. And, a lot of people would look at yourself, Avishai, and like they would go, wow, he's got it all worked out. He's the ultimate founder. You've had incredible success, but you're still learning.
Well, I think that it's a big part of the fun, right? The learning.
Yeah, I agree. So we have to work towards wrapping up, but I want to talk about website advice. I'd be silly not to. What makes a great website for founders or businesses?
Well, it depends what you want to achieve, right? I think that every business is different, every category of the business. So let's say if you're building a medical device company, right? You want to be able to capture this atmosphere of like, okay, we are really smart, we have a very strong team, and this is our story. If you're doing, well, I was saying yoga studio in Brooklyn, okay? You want to take the vibe that makes the place feel and put it inside the website and make it easy, very easy and approachable for people to try your place, right? And so I think it's telling the story, personalizing that. And then the other part is making it easy to try, right? And making it easy to take the first step. And I can give you just the simplest example. And a friend of mine was a lawyer, and she built a website on Wix, and I told her, well, the most important thing you should have is a small chat, so people can easily ask questions, not call you, just ask, well, how about this and how about that, and of course that drove conversion 3 times. And so a lot of it is about making it look and tell a story, but also enabling people to try what you do very quickly and very easily. I'm always less concerned about things like making it huge or Google will find you and love you. It's okay, but Google is really smart. And so if you build a proper website that people interact with, you'll get the SEO boost just from that.
And how do you stand out? Like, there's so many websites. That's a question that a lot of people ask, is how do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself for your website?
Well, it depends what you're doing, right? It really depends. I would say that if you are a yoga studio in Brooklyn, you want to make sure that there's a lot of content that is relevant to your neighborhood. So Google will know, well, this is that place, right? And then you appear in the right places on the searches, and it has this element for search, which is localized range from where you are. So you appear high on that range. So that is the number one thing you want to make sure. But if you are doing something that is more global, you have to make sure that you understand what are people trying to search, or where they're going to look for you, and to be in those places. Without a concrete example, it's always harder. But promotion is always a tricky job.
Yeah, and I think when you're first building a website, from my experience, it's hard. You're effectively promoting yourself and your business in the early days, and it's hard because you feel like an imposter.
True. By the way, for a lot of the businesses, that's very true, right? That's why it's so good to have AI help you write that, and not you writing that. I don't know. I would not be able to promote myself in a proper way.
Yeah. So what do you think, speaking of AI, what do you think founders should be aware of with it rapidly changing the internet landscape right now when it comes to AI?
I think that it's the speed of change is so fast that you have to prepare yourself that things will change. And if you go back to 2017, when Google published the Attention is All You Need article, which is essentially the LLM architecture, nobody who did that thought about ChatGPT coming, right? So I think you have to realize that change will come. It's going to be in many different ways, in many different places. I also believe that if you are building a startups on top of LLMs with the assumption that packaging it differently, you should probably do something else. And because there are going to be so many who's doing that, it's going to continue to change very rapidly, and it's going to get better and better. So I wouldn't try that. Again, my personal feeling. But when it comes to tech companies, the number one advice I would give to tech CEO that want to build anything that has to do with AI in any level of, well, kind of like any touch point of the core product with AI, is to learn how AI works. And that's the most important thing. So do you not delude yourself about what it can do or not, or cannot do, and what, and the why, which is probably a lot more important than most companies building technology in the past 2 decades, knowing how a server works. Because the server is a tool, while AI is the value. So I would argue that knowing that is probably way more important than knowing other technologies.
Yeah, I love that. And I think with the theme of just kind of always learning, It's just so hard though to know where to allocate your time because there's so many things to learn.
It is true. And it's true. That's part of the fun, right? But again, if you're building a startup that has to do with AI, I don't think you can survive the next couple of years without understanding exactly how it works. And it's easier than it sounds, by the way. And it's easier than it sounds, I think. At least the basic concepts of how it works. But I'm also excited about other things. I think that we're going to see incredible things coming from quantum and mechanics. I think that we're at this point of time where, because quantum computers are something that so many companies are working on, then suddenly you have engineers that are learning the universe of quantum physics and quantum mechanics. And for the history of the human race, there are only very few times in which engineering moved to a new layer of physics, right? We had fire, you can argue about steam, maybe. We had electricity and nuclear, right? So that's 4 times. Maybe I missed something, but I'm not sure. I actually missed something. And every time that happened, it appeared you get magic in the next 20 to 30 years or 50 years. I mean, electricity, Edison, somewhere around, I think in 1876, I'm not sure, probably around that time. And then you get radio, right? Broadcast probably with about 10, 15 years, 20 years after, and computers 50 years later, right? And like, if you would go and see that, oh, wait, there's a light bulb here, it turns on and off. There's no way you could predict that leading into computers. So, or radios, right? Of telephones so quickly. And I think we're at a point of time in quantum mechanics where we're starting to have a lot of engineers that go into that, and we're going to see fantastic things coming out of it. So this is, for me, super exciting.
Couple last questions. We have to work towards wrapping up. I almost forgot about this one. You're an avid gamer, and you talk about gaming. And I never forget one of my old mentors. He ran his company is listed on the NASDAQ, but he's not active anymore. And I never forget, I was looking to hire somebody that was a gamer, and that was their passion. And I said to him, I don't know if that's a good idea because they won't get much sleep because they game all night. And he said to me, why is that a bad thing? Gamers are some of the best people I've ever hired because they're incredible problem solvers. They get obsessed. They work super hard. And what's your take there? And why do you like gaming? And yeah.
Well, I can tell. First of all, it's fun. It's problem solving. It's a way to get your mind relaxed at the end of the day. And usually, my brain's working super fast. But I think the greatest entrepreneur on the planet, Elon Musk, right? I saw him, I think about a year ago, posting that his Elden Ring character was level 85. Okay? And he posted his build. Not a great build, by the way. But if he has the time you don't know how long it takes to get to level 85. Probably about, I don't know, continuously playing for 300 hours. Right? So if Elon Musk is doing that, it has to do something good.
But some would argue that he's a billionaire, so he has the time.
He's building, 4 companies, 5 companies at the same time? I was struggling with 1.5, and he's doing 5. Right? And each one of them is super impressive. So if he can do it, I'm sure that. But also, how do you win? How do you calm yourself at the end of the day? I mean, there are not many options, right? Some people meditate. All right, that's not that common. Some people drink. That's probably worse than.
Agree.
Right? Yeah. Some people. So then maybe some can do it with sport, but I think sport doesn't calm your mind as much as other things. It's fun and it's great, but it doesn't. I think probably for most of the ways to slow down at the end of the day, gaming is the one that gives you less of a headache in the next day. or a hangover, or you're not sure where you woke up, or stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, a couple last questions. We'll move to the hot seat round and then we'll wrap. But thank you for sharing. This has been a really fun, interesting interview. Hot seat round, rapid fire questions and answers. First question, what's your favorite video game of all time?
Actually, I loved Elden Rings. I think that was probably one of the best one. And then I love, I can really forget the name, Call of Duty. I used to spend too much time on Call of Duty.
What's been the holy shit moment in your business?
First time I realized that we're starting to get 12 subscriptions a day for a value of $120 a day, right? And that we're getting that consistently. And I realized we'll never have to close the company and this is going to be successful. Because I did this calculation, I'm like, this is the amount of money we have, this is the amount of money in the back, this is how it goes down. If we cut a little bit, if we need to, we can actually last forever.
What daily habit makes you better at work?
Actually taking a lot of time to think on things at night. I think that is probably the number one thing that I managed to be useful because of that.
If you could have dinner with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So, I don't know. And the reason is that most of the time I met my heroes, it was not a great experience. I was like, no way. And there are some exceptions. Mark Benioff is one of them. Brad Silverberg is another one. And so, but I would say Elon Musk, obviously. I think he's the most impressive entrepreneur of our century.
What are you excited for next? And that's my last question.
I think at Wixs we are launching a few really cool products. We're doing a lot to work with professional agency now to build a product called Wixs Studio. And I'm seeing the success of that product. So for me, it's so much fun. You know, we had this dream. We started the new thing. We did it terribly. We're getting better and better at that. We're starting to get it right. And then we're seeing the rewards from that. And this is like, for me, this is the best experience you can have as a CEO. To getting that product that you work so hard on, seeing how it faces the market, fixing that, and getting that to a place that it's great. I just love that.
Thank you for sharing. Well, Avishai, thank you so much for your time. This was a really fun, interesting, fascinating interview. Appreciate all your openness, honesty, and just being extremely candid about your journey thus far as a founder. And I also appreciate your humility. So congratulations on all of your success thus far with Wixs and all of your future ventures. And thank you so much for your time. This is really going to help our community.
My pleasure. It was fun. Cheers.
Hey guys, if you love this episode, you've got to check out my interview with Davey Fogarty on how he finds trends in undercapitalized markets and turns them into multi-million-dollar businesses.
I'm generally looking for trends globally. We find trends that haven't been kind of capitalized in certain markets or in certain marketing channels.
Yes.
And then we also obviously add our flair to it. You need to differentiate your product